How much time do you think it takes an average player who works really hard to climb NL200 from NL10? Well, a lot. It's a long road from NL10 to NL200. I'd say like few thousands of hours. Few thousands of hours of practice and studying, well, mostly practice. I mean, poker is about practice after all. We talked about it in our interview with Durdom, although he was talking about Rubik's Cube, but anyway, the idea is that you have to practice a lot. Well, whether you're talented or not, you can't get away with it. You have to put in a lot of hours, a lot of work. You have to practice. I mean, if you are talented, it would be quicker. But I'd say that at least a couple thousand hours is what you need to get this high. I mean, if you are very talented and you hit a like huge spree of luck, then you can rush your way to NL200, but it would be mostly about luck, not your skill. Do you prepare for a tournament somehow? Oh yes, I do, and I often recommend some form of preparation to other people, even before playing cash. Like, you have to prepare yourself to lose like 5 or 10 stacks. I mean, you have to expect the worst, but hope for the best. Although those things do not affect me anymore after 13 years of my poker career, I don't care if I bust the very first hand of the tournament. I have time to talk and answer questions then. And I don't have any reasons to be angry about the luck in my life. I mean, I was pretty lucky in all the important moments of my poker career. So even if I bust in the following tournaments at the very beginning, my life will not become worse because of it. Who's the best versatile player right now, meaning he's strong in both cash and tournament games? Well, I think right now it's Barak. He is at the table with us right here. So even before finishing reading your question, I had an answer. It's Barak. Here we can double check. Our hand does not have a huge share of the pot here, or we can bet 3/4. So I choose between betting 3/4 and checking. I like both options. Let's bet this time. Oh, Limitless and Bodyakovsky. Yeah, Limitless also a great example. Bodyakovsky, Nikita, I think he already forgot all the cash ranges. He is a mostly MTT player today, but Limitless, yes, is also a good option. And Barak, yeah, when I started reading your question, this was my first answer. By the way, he calls, and his range is very strong here, and I don't really think we can bet 3/4 on the river. So we're choosing between, I mean, I don't really want to check call this hand, I really hate it, so I would bet sort of a mergey bet, or just to avoid check folding. And I think he can totally bluff catch with the worst hand. So yeah, I would go for this mergey bet, but again only because I think that checking is even worse. If we check, he most likely bets polar, which we don't like. If we bet ourselves, he can call some 10x hands, some queens, jacks. And yeah, if we check and he overbets, it's a problematic spot for us. I think we have just enough to value bet. He has some king 5s in his range, some suited kings. So yeah, I think it's a fine bet. King 8, we split the pot, and it's actually a fine result for us. Because as I said before, our pot share here is not that big. Linus, I think mostly plays tournaments for fun. I talked to him and he told me that all of those wins on Triton are mostly just the result of an upswing. And he often makes those ICM suicide moves. I remember after busting from a tournament, he came up and said, "You can't imagine what a suicide move I just made." Going to visit Argentina soon. What can you say about the country? Well, the country is great. The only negative is that it is too far away from the rest of the world. I wanted to visit EPT Cyprus, for example, but it's a 26-hour flight, so I didn't go. A lot of good areas: Palermo, Recoleta, Puerto Madero. Usually people choose from those three where to stay. A lot of cool places to see. I mean, you should probably live in different places and then choose what suits you more. Some are more party-oriented, some are more quiet. Also, it's very easy to legalize your stay here. You can just visit a doctor. I mean, nobody's healthy, right? Especially poker players. So you can just visit, like, so let's say, a psychotherapist and legalize your stay this way. Or braces for your teeth is also a good option. So yeah, a lot of ways of getting your resident card through medicine. What software do you use to analyze MTT hands? ICM is probably not an easy thing for a cash player. Yeah, it's true, not easy. But to me, I mostly ask my friends to explain hands to me. I mean, I get them on a call and I ask them to explain what I should have done with examples and so on. This format works best for me, in my opinion. And to practice, I use a GTO Wizard. They have ICM spots, you can actually use their trainer to practice ICM spots. What's the maximum number of tables you play simultaneously? Well, not too many. For me, 6 tables is the maximum. This is like the upper limit for my comfort zone. And of course it depends on the situation, like I can play 6 tables against recreationals, but against regulars in reg wars, 1 table counts as 2. So I can only play 3 tables against regulars. But of course it can vary, it's not a strict formula or anything like that. But when I'm serious, I do count 1 reg wars table as 2 standard 6 max tables with recreationals. Can you assess your love for poker on a 10-point scale? Did it change over time? Well, I always had passion, I always had love for the game. There weren't periods where I hated the game. But after 13 years of my poker career, I want to compete on the highest level. It wouldn't be sufficient for me to play like offline table of NL100. It's not interesting for me. I mean, I went to play offline here in Argentina, but mostly to meet my friends, to talk. It was a social thing. In terms of competition, in terms of the game, I only want to play against the best. I want to make assumptions, I want to find their leaks, like here, for example, against Benjamin. By the way, if anyone watched his stream, please let me know what he had. And as I said before, if I had more experience, I could have considered calling here. I think he could have some bluffs. So yeah, I like to find those type of little things in my opponent's play. And of course, to play on the highest level in Hold'em, just like in chess, you have to dedicate a lot of time to it. You have to work at the tables, away from the tables, a lot of theory, a lot of practice, a lot of sweat sessions and other things. So yeah, it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy as well. So you can't be a halfway top stakes regular. You either dive into it completely or you ignore it. So yeah, it makes things complicated for me. I mean, it's tough for me to play for fun. And the only way for me to do it is to play tournaments. It is still possible, let's say, in tournaments. So when I finish my career, I want to play offline tournaments for fun, travel around the world, like a lot of wealthy recreationals do. So yeah, I want to travel and play those tournaments like break even or slightly positive in terms of EV. And I've seen some photos from Monte Carlo Triton. It's amazing. The place is amazing. And I would really love to participate, but it's not easy to get there from Argentina again. Yeah, I myself would really love to play Triton series again, but there are like 2 key problems with Triton. Oh, Jack 9, we just folded Jack 9, it would have been a great flop for us, but we couldn't have called it. Let's try and assume Arseni's range here. What does he have? Suited aces, suited broadways, pocket pairs. Oh, bit sizing from Zivakov, and yeah, very shorthand in the end. Most likely Arseni had a pocket pair. King Jack, let's open. So yeah, I really want to play Triton again. It was amazing, everything was great, but there are 2 key problems for me. First, a long travel distance from Argentina while I live here. And second, it is very expensive. The buy-ins are huge, and the last time I ended up in the money, King Jack we can't defend against a small blind 3-betting range against UTG open raise. So yeah, it is very expensive. Triton is very expensive. You can easily spend like $500,000 in one trip, and I'm not that rich. I mean, I can play some 10k tournaments, 25k tournaments from time to time, but playing main of 100k, well, a little bit too much. Lose like 10 of these in a row, and you have to get back to grinding cash. Well, for now, I just use their GTO trainer. I pick final table spots and I just go over those. I'll just try to understand the logic behind it. Where should I expand my ranges? Where I should play tighter? And for now, I mostly work on my pre-flop play. ICM pre-flop play. This is my weakest spot, and this is the first thing I work on. But I can't say that I worked a lot on this. I mean, I still have a little experience in tournament poker. Is it better to study the game on your own with help of a friend or a coach, or to join these tables? Well, that's a very good question. I think the best option is still to work with a friend, to find a friend who enjoys this and will help you, because those tables, they don't work for free. They take something from you. And you can still find all the information they provide for free, especially if there are two of you and you both are really into poker. So yeah, small teams of 2 or 3 players in this case would be more effective. No, they don't deport people, only if you commit like a very serious crime. For the past years, like tens of thousands of people from Russia have come here and stayed here, and there is only one case of deportation that I know of. And it was a guy who, I believe, even stabbed someone, so he's just a criminal. Well, I'm over 30, I don't think I'm the guy to ask about work ethics. But I'd say that if you want to play poker professionally, you have to spend like at least 120 or 130 hours per month. But then again, if you go to the gym or you do other type of sports or you work with a personal coach, I would count those hours as poker hours. Like, let's say if you spend, I don't know, like 20 hours per month in a gym, I'd say that you can add those to your poker hours. This is the approach that I use. And it is also important to rest before you actually get tired. Now, bankroll management, I'm an advocate of a more conservative approach. I don't think you have to rush in poker. Slow and steady wins the race. So I wouldn't play NL1K without 80, without 60 buy-ins. But there are also high-stakes cash games. Yes, they also play cash on Triton series, that's true. And I'd love to play cash against those guys, but again, it is very expensive. Want to play those 1K, 2K blinds with straddles and so on? Well, let me tell you about this. I mean, first of all, I like playing on my own money. I don't really like selling action. Like in this hand, for example, Queen 6, right? Where I could have played it more cautiously and play a smaller pot, but I decided to play a little bit more risky, and I'm totally okay doing that with my own money. I'm not afraid to make risky moves with my own money, but if I play for someone's money, I would be a little less comfortable in spots like that, and I don't really like it. So I prefer playing for my own money, but to play those high-stakes cash games on Triton, I have to sell action. Not only they play 1-2K with straddles, there are also a lot of side bets, like winning extra with 7 deuce, stand up and all that jazz. It increases the VPIP of players, it increases the average size of the pot played, and in the end of the day it increases the variance. So to play those games you can find on YouTube on Triton, you need a bankroll of like at least, even 10 millions of dollars is not enough. And I just don't have that much money, and I don't expect to have anything like it in the near future, because it's a lot of money. So yeah, I can't afford playing cash against them on Triton. And I don't like selling action. I prefer playing for my own money. So yeah. Life hacks, you say? Okay. Well, yes, I have one life hack for you. When everything goes wrong for me and I can't focus at all, I turn this situation into a challenge for me. Well, it's not my day, I probably haven't slept well, but I still have to somehow try to play my best even in these conditions. I mean, I'm clearly not in my best shape for whatever reason, but I have to accept it, and I have to try to do my best even out of shape. So at least try to show some A-game results. And I look at that as an exercise. Sometime in your career you will have to play your best being out of shape. So now you're just preparing for it. How Viktor Kudinov and Light did in Macao. Oh, he also played a very expensive game. He had a session of like 30 hours, I believe, and he's even older than I am. I believe he's like 34. So not a young lad, let's say, and he also have some health issues, I know. He lost a lot of money initially, but then he won some of it back in the end. I ended up losing slightly. But yeah, the game was very expensive, huge pots with some recreationals. One guy, I believe he was like a stock trader or something like that. He was just having fun there. And they played NL40K deep stacked, so a huge variance. But yeah, he won almost all of his money back, so he ended up break even, although the year for him is not successful. So he's like minus 1 million in cash, and this offline experience wasn't really good as well. And he was exhausted by the end. It's really tough to play 30-hour sessions offline. And if you played for 30 hours and won some money, it's one thing, but if you played for 30 hours and didn't win anything, then it's much tougher. So yeah, not the best time of his career and not a very successful trip to Macao. 3 most unpleasant players in my career. Well, I really hate to play against guys who know how to make thin folds. Even playing against Stefan is not as tough for me as playing against those guys. Well, Stefan will at least pay off when you have a value hands, but those guys, it's like they read your soul. Like you're going for a thin value and he finds a thin fold, or you're going for a thin bluff and he finds a thin call. So yeah, I really struggle against those guys, and number one in this is Moonistar. It's always tough for me to play against Sergey, Tax here also. And even against Linus, it's not that tough because he doesn't really make those thin folds. But yeah, Moonistar, Tax here, and who's number 3? Those two were like from the top of my head, and Okay, let's say Marius Gears, Dex 888. He's the guy I've been playing against a lot in 2019. I was battling him, and I thought for some reason that he is not that good, but in the end he won a lot of buy-ins from me. So yeah, he is probably number 3 in my list. How do you spend your leisure time? I try to socialize as much as possible. Poker is a game where you are mostly on your own, so when people ask me to go on a trip with them, or to go and play some board games, or to go to a restaurant, I always try to say yes. So I try to spend more time outside, more time communicating and enjoying my life. And of course also some leisure time I spend at my computer, watching streams, following Dota tournaments. Like for example, right now I follow the International. Well, now I mostly watch highlights, but nevertheless. Well, I personally always prefer morning hours. This is the time where my brain works the best. Maybe it's just a matter of habit, or maybe it's just the time where I perform the best, but yeah, I would prefer morning hours. How tough is it to climb ONL 1K for NL 100 player? Can you make it by playing against recreational players only, or do you just have to battle professionals as well? Well, there's no definitive answer, like one way or another. Both works. I think you should probably mostly bomb hunt. But first of all, you have to put quality hours into your game, you have to study a lot, you have to work on your game, you have to understand where the money comes from, like which tables you can beat and which not, when it's profitable to play without a rec, when it's not, things like that. So yeah, you just have to put in a lot of time. NL100 to NL1K is a long road. Not as long as from 0 to NL100 probably, or maybe the same, but yeah, it's a long road, and you have to put a lot of time and a lot of effort into it. A few thousand hours, I'd say. Well, at least 1,000. You've said that on high stakes you have to keep abreast and immerse in the game completely. What's the borderline stake where you can acquire a certain amount of knowledge and then just play for years without putting a lot of effort? Do you maybe have examples of such players? Oh yeah, there are a lot of examples, and I think that for stakes like NL500 to NL1K, with enough knowledge you probably can keep afloat by selecting the games really well. So yeah, I'd say for stakes from NL200 to NL1K, you can possibly keep afloat with the bag of knowledge that you have for years, but not higher.